Good morning and welcome back to a very special edition of the Nudelberg Daily Huddle, where we are all coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here to have a great day with Lightspeed VT and Brad Lee and the Dropping Bomb podcast, but we are up early and committed to the Daily Huddle. So great to see everybody this morning. Gentlemen, welcome to a great week. And here we go.
It's certainly, excuse me, first of all, it's dry as could be. I can barely talk.
Are you going to be okay, sir? Are we going to get the full performance out of you? We might have to just see him get off because this could be an absolute struggle bus.
The whole thing about routine is you really set your internal body clock to wake up and function the way it's supposed to function, regardless of what the clock is telling you. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea what day it is or what time it is.
I will tell you, I am so happy that we are live on LinkedIn and I can see it on my phone, because if LinkedIn messed up today, I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of bad days, travel last night. So speak to this. Priorities, right? For me, I knew I had to get out here. I had to be here on Monday, had to be here for the day, but I didn't want to lose the weekend with the family. Plus, it was Palm Sunday, which, Shay, I don't know if the Palm Sunday pictures ever came through to you, but we had a great service, a great liturgy at church yesterday. And it was awesome to be able to celebrate with the community. So I was able to serve both purposes, both priorities, by staying at home for the weekend, flying out Sunday night on the late flight to get here late and be able to catch a little bit of sleep. Well, wouldn't you know, whatever you put to plan doesn't work according to your plan. So we get here, we land on time, and then they don't have a gate for us. So we waited an hour on the tarmac.
After a 5.5 hour flight.
After a 5.5 hour flight, we waited an
Surprise, hour. We're here. Surprise.
And it was, it was late. It was 12:30 or whatever. And so it was frustrating, to say the least, but customer service and doing the right thing. As I'm connecting to the Wi-Fi and we're sitting on the tarmac, I'm looking, go to my email. Sure enough, there's an email from JetBlue, and they come through with an immediate credit. It didn't take them.
Apology. For tagged as an apology. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, the very first thing in the subject line was, "We apologize for the inconvenience," and they immediately delivered a credit to everybody that was on that flight to be able to travel again. And so while it doesn't save the fact that I lost an hour of sleep that I could have gotten, it was nice to see that they didn't waste any time trying to make it right.
So we talk about modern business. I think part of modern business is you got to treat your customers like family, and this is what you would do for family. Hey, we couldn't avoid this thing, but here's what we can do. And they did it fast.
Well, and they took all of the work for me out of it. I didn't have to go see a customer agent. I didn't have to call somebody. So all of the traditional things that you would have had to have done in order to get that credit, they took it out of all of that process and delivered it to me right in my inbox, which in that moment alleviated some of the frustration, some of the and it was like, all right, well, at least I did the right thing. And then it was just a little bit more waiting.
Now, I can tell you this. Conversely, Jake and I and Shay got here the day before. We figured we'd spend the day together spend a Sunday in Vegas. I didn't want to risk a late flight and then having to get up and do the work. So we had some rest yesterday. It was a really nice day, but we got up. We flew in Saturday night. We got up Sunday morning. We went down to Starbucks and had the rudest experience. Jake, would you tell me how rude that was?
First of all, it was like we were applying for the SAT rather than buying a cup of coffee. Like, the system was complicated. She goes, "You have to do this and this," and then we didn't do it. Neither did the people next to us. And she goes, "Well, then it's you guys." And it was like, okay, right? I was like, go to Starbucks every day, but
she goes, "Jesus Christ, it's not brain surgery. I wanted to reach across the thing and punch this lady. I was like, do you realize how you're representing the brand? And Amanda says, yeah, let's talk about service. At the end of the day, it's not what you're selling, it's how you sell it. What is the experience like with the people? So would you go on JetBlue again?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Look, I played a little cards last night, and I think it's all about the experience, right? And I had a dealer that refused to speak, like refused to do anything. And I kind of like looked at him and was like, can you give me something? Like a little, like a smirk, or, like play with me just a little that, I feel okay losing money to you. So I think it all goes to the experience rather than what you're doing. It's like who you're doing it with. And, it increases the experience, obviously.
So one more thing about experience. I get to the airport last night. I get to my gate. I'm standing there waiting. And I see Marshawn Lynch walk up and is standing right in front of the gate with me.
For those who don't know,
Marshawn Lynch was a very successful running back in the NFL. He's a very interesting personality, was never fond of talking to the media or being in the public eye, but has a very interesting personality. From seeing him on podcasts and doing some things that have put him out there, he seems like an interesting dude. So I don't go up and say anything right away. Like, I'm waiting, I'm kind of checking out what his vibe is, and I'm ensuring that it's Marshawn Lynch. And then, of course, everybody else starts to recognize him around me. And so I'm watching people go up to him. And as soon as they're going up to him, he's looking at them like this. And he's just shaking his head real quickly, like, don't come up to me. I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's not into it. Like, he doesn't want a scene to be made. He doesn't want all the people to come to him, whatever. So he doesn't want it to happen. Well, people are completely oblivious to this and just keep coming up to him. So, like, he's like at one point, like, trying to like stiff arm one person away, like, get away from me. I'm not trying to talk to you. And so he's completely like standoffish, dies down a little bit. Somebody who didn't recognize what was going on walks up to him and goes, are you Marshawn Lynch? And he looks at him real quick and he goes, I'm on the phone. Right? And goes back to looking forward. Guy doesn't break a stride. Are you Marshawn Lynch? Just kind of looks at him with his eyes and looks away. Ask him a third time, are you Marshawn Lynch? And he screams in the gate area, I'm on the phone.
Which is really funny because you get on the plane and you're like, I hope Marshawn sits next to me. And he sits behind me, and Mark texts me and he goes, I'm kind of scared to take a picture. I don't think I'm going to do it. I go, not worth it.
He ended up sitting in the seat right behind me. And then, I had like a little back and forth with him when we were getting off the plane after the delay, but it was a pretty cool experience.
So there are a couple of new people I see today. Alexis and Ivor, welcome. Thank you for showing up. We ask new people to show up.
She was here last week.
Yeah, Alexis is here. I've seen Alexis before.
Okay, that's new to me.
Great to see you.
And then Ivor comes in.
Thanks for being here this morning, guys. Tell us where you come from.
Treat customers like family. I love that.
You get to see us in our raw element this morning.
Look at what's on the screen here. This is my family. Let's wake this thing up. We do want to talk Final Four. Lots of takeaways. Lots of great analogies and great stuff. So wake this thing up, Shay. Wake up, everybody.
Ivor coming in from Cleveland. Thanks for being here. You must be a little chilly, but would love to know how you found the Huddle, who connected you to us, and would love to get your story. That's awesome. Thanks for being here.
JC Pino is here. Haven't seen JC in a long time. One of my gym mates back in my West Palm Beach days. Anyway, lots of fun stuff to talk about coming from the Final Four. The excitement leading up to, with Miami being in it and FAU being in it.
And then the letdown.
I was going to say, so false expectations. I mean, people got carried away with it.
I don't think so.
What do you say?
I think, I mean, if you watch the FAU game, they just got beat. Who had the ball at the end of the game? The kid made a shot. They didn't make a shot in that last possession that could have extended the lead to 3, and that kid just made a shot.
I'll counter. I think the Canes got beat and FAU lost. Is my opinion of why. I watched the game. FAU belonged on the court with San Diego State. I don't believe that for Miami. Miami was undersized. Miami needed to absolutely play at their best in order to be there. I don't think that was the case for FAU, but an amazing run for both.
I don't know that there were a lot of teams in the tournament that belong on the court with UConn. Now, having watched them play throughout the tournament, I mean, and it's going to take us to the Dan Hurley conveation, which is a great.
Your post was unreal, by the way. Absolutely.
Well,
I don't give you a pat on the back.
What a tremendous takeaway, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the whole idea that it checked family, it checked priorities, it checked work ethic.
There was, the moment that they showed the family, his dad and then his brother behind him, that is what it's about, especially in that profession, to be there, to go support, which then made me think of all the people that were there supporting FAU in Miami, and what a big monumental moment it is in sports, is this collective family environment. So it was just fantastic. And real quick, John, yes, we're working out after this. So
1,000% we are.
Right, we are
in gym clothes.
We're
ready to go.
The final takeaway, and I thought the most important, is self-awareness. For whatever role you play in life, if you are not self-aware of what is the talk in your brain and what your gut is telling you, you're going to miss out, and people see that.
So let me give the context for everybody, because not everybody saw the post and not everybody knows the Hurley family story. Bobby Hurley, who is Dan Hurley, who is the coach of UConn's older brother, had a very successful basketball career. And they were a well-known family in Jersey City for basketball. Their dad was a successful basketball coach. So the Hurley family grew up with a ton of expectations around basketball. Just so happened that Bobby was really good, went on to be drafted by the Sacramento Kings, had an unfortunate accident, a car accident that took him out of playing. A bad one. But he was really good and set a lot of expectations for Dan following suit to be the same, to be exactly as good as his brother was, to live up to that hype and to have the same output. And while he was at Seton Hall, really struggled and was not living up to it and was not really the guy that everybody expected him to be, and was having some issues with chemistry with the coaching staff. And if you listen to Dan Hurley and how he tells the story, Dan says the person that gave him permission to walk away from basketball was Bobby, because they had a conversation and Bobby was like, dude, if it's not making you happy, if it's not the right thing for you, step away, take a year off, do what you need to do, figure out what's right for you and do what's right for you. So he did. He stepped away from the Seton Hall basketball team, stepped away from basketball, which afforded him some perspective to be able to really think about what made him happy. Now, fast forward, that leads him to a coaching career inside of basketball. And wouldn't you know that Bobby Hurley's first coaching job inside of basketball is on Dan Hurley's staff I think it was at Rhode Island at that time.
Rhode Island.
So unbelievable the way the older brother, younger brother conversation, expectation, who's doing really well, how you get to where you need to be, that Bobby ends up actually working for Dan at one point, and now Bobby is the head coach for Arizona State. But to me, Dan doesn't walk away from basketball, and who knows what happens, the burnout, the lack of passion, the lack of identity, if Danny doesn't tell him, or if Bobby doesn't tell him, hey, it's okay. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to not do the thing that we have to do or everybody expects us to do, which I thought was a really, really neat story.
Jake, any follow-up, any comments on that?
Yeah, I think it might be me, but I'm suffering from Wi-Fi issues on my part. But I think look, in that instance, in that experience, but his brother's probably the only one that could give him permission, especially when you come from that family. The expectations, I'm sure, that existed or that Bobby had or Danny had created in his head about what his dad would think or, there's a lot of different elements to that one, but having those people in your life that are willing to give you that perspective and that you trust and you allow yourself to understand that.
It's twofold. It's because Dad hit on the self-awareness piece, right? Like he had to understand and recognize that he wasn't happy, and he had to own that for himself. And then he had to have the person that he could be able to talk to about it. Like that conversation reminds me of my conversation with Dad when I had that moment of limbo at Lafayette and was like, maybe I don't want to do this. Is that an okay thing to say? Like, maybe this isn't right. And there was a bigger conversation going on in my life the year prior with my marriage and everything else. But there, you got, number one, the self-awareness to be able to recognize that you're not happy, but then know who you're going to go talk to, or have somebody that you feel comfortable going to talk to say, if I say this out loud, what does it mean? If I do this, what does it mean? What happens? How does it make you feel? How can you help me through this? Because there's no way Dan would have done it by himself.
Well, so he tied his identity at that point to being a basketball player, not a coach. And that's a difficult transition when you say, wow, I wanted the ultimate success as a player, but it didn't make me happy. For you, ultimate success was I want to coach. Doesn't necessarily have to be in football. You transition those skill sets. And I think if you assess, and Paula says there's reassessment, I say forget about reassessment. Assess the situation all the time with all of your relationships, right? With your significant other, with your friends, with your business partners, with your actual business. This word during the pandemic got really, really hot. Pivot, which is a basketball word. Most people are full of shit. They don't even know what pivot is. When you legitimately put a foot down and rotate, you are rotating out of that position into something else. It's cathartic. It's fantastic. And it leads us to amazing motivational music. Stay tuned, because this is a great song. And then we're talking women's basketball, which was off the chart yesterday.
Turn it on, great song.
No, I thought we'd play more of that, but I guess I didn't.
That was what you asked.
Yeah, I did.
Well done, Shay. You executed exactly.
So talking about pivoting, talking about LSU women's basketball is some of the best pivoting I've seen in a 2-year span. If you don't know, all the storylines were about Iowa, about Caitlin Clark, about how great Iowa was and how big of the upset South Carolina was. Nobody gave LSU a chance. They 2 years ago had 9 wins, right? And 2 years later, this new coach comes in, and an absolutely amazing performance from them. And I want to touch on it because they're getting a lot of hate now for that. They're taunting Caitlin Clark and all these things. Let's not forget that Caitlin Clark was doing the exact same things to South Carolina.
Yes.
Let's keep things in perspective here. And when you put it out there, you're allowed to receive it, or you need to learn how to take it.
Well, so what's interesting is that I think what has made LSU successful is the owning of their identity, and the empowerment to be who they are, to live their personality out loud. It reminds me of the Canes in the late 80s and early 90s with Jimmy Johnson, right, who said, I don't care what you do as long as you do it within the terms of playing the game of football and you don't leave anybody any doubt to say that you're not the greatest. And so that's what LSU has done. That's what that coach has done. And it's a shame to see the way that they get almost pigeonholed or stereotyped, or the things that get talked about with them because of where they come from, because of their skin color, because of their background. And then you have a completely different conversation going on in the public around Caitlin Clark and the Iowa team that is essentially an all-white team. And so you're looking at the way the media talks about these two teams because of where they come from and their difference in background. But it was awesome to see them win. It was awesome to see them own their identity. And it creates for great conversation.
So we got to watch the game in the in what they call the sports book which was so exciting. Jake had Wi-Fi issues, so we'll Shay, you'll bring it home for us, so we have another face on the screen. But here's the final concept about all of the basketball that went on in the month of March, which was tremendous. These are kids. These are kids that are 20, 19, 18, 19, kids that are on the biggest stage. Absolute unbelievable amount of money that's at stake. And, you know, the guy from San Diego State, he missed the end line by inches. If he's on the end line, we're writing a whole nother story for FAU.
Yep.
Are they losers or are they winners?
I think they're all winners. I think, you know, I think obviously Caitlin Clark for Iowa is a winner.
Oh.
I think what they did as a program is a win. LSU is a win for sure. FAU, when you listen to those kids and what that coach has done at that school, they talked about changing the program. They talk about putting the program on the map. And if you listen to Jim Larinaga, you know, he goes, look, we did something by coming to the Elite Eight that had never been done. We then won in the Elite Eight that had never been done and got to the Final Four. He goes, this is Miami's first ever Final Four appearance. He's now 0-2 in the Final Four, once with George Mason and once with Miami. But you have to think that they're going back. You have to think that the trajectory of that Miami basketball team is doing well. So I don't see a loser anywhere on it. I will say this, and this could be controversial. I think it's a loser for college basketball because I think the numbers are way down in the Final Four and in the national championship because you don't have the casual fan. The casual college basketball fan is not tuning in for FAU San Diego State.
They want Kentucky.
They want
Duke.
North
they
Carolina.
Want Kansas.
They want the Blue Bloods. And so I do think that it's probably a loss for college basketball a little bit in terms of overall numbers and revenue, but it's great stories all
So
around.
unpack that for a second. At some point, there's got to be a turnover. This is the start of that turnover where those programs have to say to themselves, talk about parity, man. It's kind of, you know,
it's if it becomes
anybody can win.
I mean, it's and you're happy that like at least FAU is in a major media market, even though they're a small school.
Mhm.
So like hopefully you draw bigger attention. You don't lose anything from gaining Miami as a future blue blood of basketball, but it's got to start somewhere. Somebody's got to be the first to turn the tide, and somebody's got to be the first to really send it in a new direction.
So give me a pick for tonight.
I'm UConn all the way. I want to see Dan Hurley raise a championship trophy. I want to see UConn go on to be a very successful perennial program. I want all of the Hurley story all the time.
I think it will be great. Here's an underlying story that I want you to pay attention to. It will be Jim Nance's final call for for basketball in general. He's hanging it up. They've been playing tributes to him, so Google it because he is iconic, legendary in terms of the game calls, all of the things he's done for college basketball. But it's in a great experience. Should be an amazing night for us. We're doing basically an all-nighter. We'll be busy all day. We'll watch the game here. We take the red eye home tomorrow, so no huddle. Well, there won't be a live huddle. Shay will pick a gem and throw it up there, and then we'll be back on Wednesday. For those of you who want to see either one of us speak, I know I have some people seeing me speak Thursday afternoon, and then
I'll be speaking Thursday night at Brick for Cindy Metzler's event, so I will continue to post that. I know we've had some huddlers who use the Huddler promo code to get their free tickets. I will post that again to my Instagram story and to LinkedIn today if you guys are interested in being a part of that event.
It'll be a cool photo opportunity for the Huddlers to be at another event. So thank you all for tuning in. Talk about commitment. Look yourself in the mirror. No matter what the circumstances are, you got to keep your word. That's what we did today.
Amen.
Nice job. We're here. We're actually going to work out and spend the day. Look for our pictures. We'll see you Wednesday.
Let's go.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down